socialism is a massive problem in Africa, obviously. Any questions on that?
I've said, what is the ideal system then? Because I'm not saying that capitalism, socialism, or communism is the greatest.
They've all got problems.
Right. So I'm saying, what is the best system?
I'm not sure there is a single best system.
Single one.
But there's definitely bad ones. And I think that socialism is definitely one of the bad ones because it allows people to commit theft and pretend they're being good, frankly.
What, like capitalism?
No. I'm not a capitalist.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying like people commit theft under capitalism. They're being good.
Capitalism at least ostensibly criminalizes theft, whereas socialism is predicated on theft. So the socialists would say, no, we need to take their land and redistribute it. Okay, fair enough. Like, I understand that thing. But the capitalists will at least say, well, no, you've got an entitlement to the things you own, right? Now, I'm not saying there isn't exploitation and all these other things, but socialism, the ruling principle of it is theft, whereas the ruling principle of capitalism is trade, theoretically.
So, there's a book.
Oh, yes.
And there's a book called How the West Underdeveloped Africa, or How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, right? And if you read that book, Albert Butler, I believe it was, that wrote it, you will see that it's very interesting. What is called theft, right? Because like you spoke about, Jack Chirac said, we plundered them for, that's theft.
Sure.
But you now look like the arbiter of morals, you had the moral high ground.
No, I'm not saying that, I mean, like, imperialism isn't capitalism, right?
True.
Like, I'm not,
but they're now linked though.
Sure, they certainly were, and certainly because of Britain towards the end of the 19th and early 20th centuries. But the problem is you've got like historical events that are happening concurrently that have layers and beginnings and ends that overlap with one another, right? So, for example, if we look at, say, 20th century capitalism, it's very, very hard on property rights, right? So it's very, very, because that's the sort of genuine spirit of capitalism. But if you have a sort of legacy imperial system where people are starting to understand that free trade can produce massive wealth, well, you will get exploitation in that system. But the imperialism is over now because that was deemed to be immoral, rightly so. But capitalism itself is in the ownership and distribution of goods and property. That's not immoral.
However,
so it persists.
No, the thing is, I actually agree with you.
Yeah.
However, to get to that point,
I'm not saying injustices weren't.
You had to be unjust,
and that's what the validation for socialism is. Because they'll say, "Well, hang on a second. If a series of unjust events led us to this point, then we are justified in doing something unjust in return, right? We get to take it and take it back." Which, and the thing is, there's strength to that argument. There is genuine strength to that argument. But the problem is, once you're in the mindset of saying, well, we're just going to take these things and that's how it works, well, that attracts really bad people. Like, that attracts really corrupt people. And so
then, because this, I don't disagree with you, right? What I'm saying is, people never forget. This is the problem that I think we have. People don't forget. If the Chinese invade tomorrow, Great Britain, right? And 5 centuries go by, right? But the English people or the people of the UK, right, have children, generations, blah, blah, blah. They're never going to forget that the Chinese invaded.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And so they're always going to have some kind of thing against Chinese rule.
Absolutely.
And Chinese imperialism. And so, excuse me. And so if Chinese now are trying to show people, hey, listen, we're the moral people, they're going to be like, you didn't get it like that.
Yeah. No.
Do you know what I'm saying? People never forget.
And that's a totally fair critique. That's the thing. It is a fair critique. And it's one that the modern liberal doesn't understand, because the modern liberal thinks that history begins now. They think we're just... Exactly. And so they can't recognize that groups of people carry baggage, I guess you call it. Yes. Like, they carry their luggage with them, right? Yes. And so, like, this is the thing. Like, I had a debate with Narinder Kaur, and she's a Sikh woman from India. Well, not her. She's not from India, but her parents are from India. And she was saying, well, look, you did this to us. And I'm like, on a continuum of being British, yes, you can say that. But the modern liberal says, well, I was never there, so I didn't do it. So it's not my responsibility. But that doesn't mean that she then puts the baggage down and then just carries on. And so the question of multiculturalism becomes a really complex one and says, okay, well, why would you bring in a bunch of people who have got all this baggage against you into your country. You know, they should be in their country, right? And that seems to be the only logical way of resolving the problem.
Do you know what's so funny? I was actually having this conversation this morning with somebody, and I said, because they were like, all right, so what's the answer to the question? I was like, everyone go back to where they came from.
Who decided
Go
to come
back
up
where
to
you
us?
came from if you want to use language like that.
Why don't you go back to where you came from, you fucking colonizer?
Are you First Nations?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't call me a colonizer.
You're a colonizer. You're European.
Where did you come from?
Yeah, where did you come from?
Where did you come from? I'm actually curious.
The
Where'd you
U.S.
U.S.?
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're not
so
even
you're
from
not
here.
Canadian either.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, but we are Canadian too. I was born here.
I was born here too.
Okay.
Were you born here?
No.
Okay,
Oh.
so this is actually like I was born here and you're not even born
My
here, and you're
grandparents
telling me to
were?
go
Doesn't
back
matter,
to
you're
wherever.
telling us to go
Your
back to-
grandparents weren't either. That's the thing.
Well, what's the other answer? You know, and I'm not demanding
Everyone
it.
go back to where they came from. It's not a, because I don't advocate violence, so it's a non-violent way of doing it.
Absolutely.
Everyone go back to where they came from. However, sorry to cut that. However, there are some people that have heavy interests in other countries, yeah, who wouldn't want to essentially go back to where they came from, and that's across the board, white, black, whoever.
But there are lots of people who've left the baggage behind, right? And the people who leave the baggage behind, okay, fine, they can stay. Obviously, why? You know.
But then where do we go? Because I remember watching the episode that you guys did here on Julius Malema.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so how far do the white South Africans have to go back to Dutchland?
Well, that's the question, right? That's why I'm not saying that anyone.
No, but I'm saying a lot of them haven't, though.
But that's why I'm not saying that everyone has to, right? But there are going to be people who essentially it's going to have to come down to, if you can't leave the baggage of the old world behind, then you have to go back to the old world. If you're okay with letting it go and just being a normal person in the country, in the modern country, then stay, I guess.
People don't forget.
Well, yeah, but that's the problem.
That's the thing. People don't forget.
But some people do. Some people let it go, you know. Probably a minority.
Even if you do, that doesn't mean everyone has. I mean, I'm thinking of the white people in Zimbabwe. Like, there's a few left, but they know damn well there's a tension between them and the locals. And
because people don't forget.
To your point, I mean, it's a weird circumstance because, of course, they lost the war, and then the whole economy got killed by Mugabe. But they all left. They went to Australia or Canada or the United States or Hong Kong. They all disappeared throughout the empire.
My thing is, I think it would be very interesting if everyone went back to where they came from.
Yeah.
And left everyone alone. And because I personally think,
I can tell you're a dad.
yeah. Like,
just leave each other alone.
Like, leave them alone, right? And I'm just like, I just think it's interesting because I think people flourish and thrive when left alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? And I just think leave everyone alone. Everyone do their own thing. And it's like, nah, some people want to have hands in people's stuff. So
yeah, no, it's totally true.